Have you ever felt like you're playing a role in your own life? On the outside, you've checked all the right boxes. You're a success. But inside, there's this quiet fragility, a feeling that your whole world is a house of cards, one weak moment away from collapsing. This was the world a man named Julian lived in. He was a celebrated, envied entrepreneur whose life looked like a masterpiece to everyone but himself. To him, it just felt like a performance. He was haunted by this gnawing weakness, a sense that his success wasn't built on solid rock, but on sand, on habits he knew were beneath him, but couldn't seem to break. What if this weakness isn't some deep character flaw, but a series of habits we practice every single day without even realizing it? Habits the ancient Stoics warned us about more than 2,000 years ago. Today, we're going to expose the weak habits that silently eat away at our self-mastery. And we'll discover, just like Julian did, how to dismantle them one by one. Julian's breaking point wasn't a failed business deal or a stock market crash. It came in a moment of quiet stillness, staring at his reflection, when he admitted to himself that he didn't respect the man looking back. He was a slave to his inbox, a puppet of praise, and a master of postponement. That night, desperately searching for an answer, he stumbled onto the writings of the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, Seneca, the famous playwright and political advisor, and Epictetus, a man born a slave who became one of history's most influential teachers. He wasn't expecting what he found. It wasn't a bunch of complex theories. It was a practical guide, a toolkit for building inner strength, used by leaders who faced plagues, wars, and betrayal, yet somehow remained unshaken. Stoicism taught him that real strength wasn't about being tough. It was about forging character through disciplined thought and deliberate action. This was the beginning of his journey, the dismantling of his life's house of cards. Habit number 1, the tyranny of external validation. Julian's first fight was with a very modern addiction, the hunger for approval. His days were completely dictated by what other people thought. He'd launch a product and then spend the next 48 hours compulsively checking social media, news articles, and forums. A positive comment gave him a fleeting high. A negative one sent him spiraling. He had outsourced his self-worth. The Stoics see this as a form of self-imposed slavery. When you chain your emotional state to the unpredictable praise or criticism of others, you hand them the keys to your own peace of mind. You become a ship without a rudder, tossed around by the ever-changing winds of public opinion. The Stoic solution? Cultivate an inner scorecard. You have to care more about your own character than your reputation. As Epictetus, a man who understood true freedom, put it, if you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your integrity. If you need a witness, be your own. Julian took this to heart. His first step was small but powerful. He deleted the social media and news apps from his phone for 1 week. And at the end of each day, he started a new habit, journaling. He'd write down one action he took that day that aligned with his principles, no matter the outcome or what anyone else thought. He was learning to be his own witness, finding validation not in the roar of the crowd, but in the quiet whisper of his own conscience. Habit number 2, the slow poison of procrastination. The next habit Julian had to confront was the one that filled him with the most shame, procrastination. For months, a difficult but critical conversation with a senior partner was looming over him. He knew it had to happen, but the fear of conflict made him put it off, day after day. Each delay just added another layer of dread, a low-frequency anxiety that drained his energy and focus. Procrastination isn't just laziness. It's a profound act of self-betrayal. It's choosing short-term comfort over your long-term strength and integrity. It's a habit that lets fear become your master. The Stoics had a powerful and pretty sobering antidote for this, memento mori. Remember, you must die. Now, this isn't about being morbid. It's a tool for radical urgency. In his private journal, the Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote himself a stark reminder. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. That single thought just cuts through the fog of later. There might not be a later. The time to act is always now. Inspired, Julian adopted a simple rule. His most important, most dreaded task of the day had to be the very first thing he did. The morning after reading that passage, he walked into his office, picked up the phone, and made the call he'd been avoiding for months. It wasn't easy, but when it was over, the dread that had been shadowing him for so long just vanished. He felt more than relief. He felt a surge of power. He had chosen action over avoidance, and in doing so, he reclaimed a piece of his will. Habit number 3, the slavery of mindless consumption. Julian's office and home were filled with the symbols of success. The latest gadgets, designer clothes, a library of books he'd never actually read. He soon realized these weren't sources of joy. They were tools for distraction. Whenever he faced a tough problem or an uncomfortable feeling, he would escape. He'd numb himself with an endless stream of online articles, binge watch a new series, or shop for things he didn't need. The Stoics warned that a life spent chasing pleasure and avoiding discomfort leads to a fragile mind. Seneca argued that true happiness comes from simplification, not accumulation. He famously observed that we often suffer more often in imagination than in reality, and we use all this consumption to run away from our imagined pains. By constantly seeking comfort, we lose our resilience. We become soft, unable to handle even minor hardships. The Stoic practice to fight this is voluntary discomfort. You intentionally embrace small, controlled hardships to build your tolerance for the uncontrolled chaos of life. This can be as simple as taking a cold shower, fasting for a day, or even just sleeping on the floor. It's a training exercise for your soul. Seneca himself recommended this, writing, "It is better to be despised for simplicity than to suffer agonies from everlasting pretense." Julian decided to fast, not from food, but from distraction. For one entire Sunday, he shut off his phone, his laptop, and his TV. He was left completely alone with his thoughts. The first few hours were torture. The urge to check, to scroll, to consume was almost overwhelming. But as the day wore on, a strange calm settled over him. His mind, starved of its usual junk food, started to clear. He went for a long walk. He sat in silence. He felt bored, and then he felt centered. For the first time in years, he wasn't running from himself. Habit number 4, the prison of past mistakes. Julian was a perfectionist, which really just meant he was a professional regret collector. He'd lie awake at night, replaying mistakes from years ago, a botched negotiation, a bad hiring decision, a moment of unkindness. These memories were his prison, keeping his mind trapped in a past he couldn't change. Dwelling on the past is a profoundly weakening habit. It drains all the energy and potential from the present moment. The Stoics taught that the past, like all external events, is outside of our control. To endlessly mourn it or rage against it is, in their view, a form of madness. It's like being angry at the rain. The only power you have over the past is the power to change what you learn from it. The goal isn't to forget your mistakes, but to extract the lesson and then drop the emotional baggage. As Seneca wrote, we have to root out the recollection of past suffering, since the latter no longer concerns me, and the former concerns me not yet. So, Julian created a closing ritual for his regrets. He took a notebook and wrote down one major mistake that haunted him. He didn't just write down what happened. He forced himself to answer 3 questions. What is the objective lesson here? What specific action can I take today to make sure I don't repeat it? And finally, is there any real benefit to holding on to the anger or shame from this moment? He would reflect, pull out the wisdom, and then ceremoniously close the book on it. He was learning to be a student of his past, not its prisoner. The climax. Months passed. On the outside, Julian's life didn't look all that different. His company was still successful. He was still the man in charge. But on the inside, everything had changed. The house of cards had been taken down, piece by piece, and replaced by something solid. He was no longer fragile. When a new project hit a major setback, he didn't spiral into anxiety. He calmly assessed what was in his control and got to work. When a competitor started a malicious rumor, he didn't waste a second of energy on anger or seeking validation. He just focused on his work, trusting his inner scorecard. He was still ambitious, but his ambition wasn't fueled by insecurity anymore. It was fueled by purpose. He was finally becoming the man he wanted to respect. Conclusion: Julian's story is the story of anyone who has ever felt that gap between their outer life and their inner world. It's the story of how small, weak habits, when practiced daily, can erode the very foundation of our strength. The tyranny of needing approval, the slow poison of procrastination, the slavery of mindless consumption, and the prison of past mistakes. These are the patterns that keep us weak. But just recognizing them is the first step. Dismantling them is the daily work of a practical philosopher. Strength isn't a destination you just arrive at, it's a daily practice. It's a series of conscious choices you make, moment by moment. It's the choice to be your own witness, to act with urgency, to embrace discomfort, and to learn from your past without being defined by it. As the great Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, and all of us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The journey is yours to take. The tools are here. The time is now. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more practical wisdom. And let me know in the comments, which weak habit will you start dismantling first?